charge. Can't afford to miss it, we won't be ignored. No need for knocking, come on in. Bring your family and your friends. Got you geeked and tuning in, YouTube watching or listening. Music is the major topic. Enjoy audio erotic. When the merch arrives, no copy. Help me monetize and profit. Mix the genres up like salads. Rock to reggae, face the ballad.
Turn it up. You're listening to Live and Loud with the Lord, Nelson, that is.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you know who it is. It's the big guy with the big show. It's the Lord. Nelson, that is, from the podcast Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS Network with 5 Royals Entertainment. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, I've got somebody on here so important to the culture and to music. And if you're an aspiring artist, you need to listen to this young man. He's going to give you the actuals, the factuals, the contractuals. He's doing all that. He is really on point with what he's got going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me read off a little something for you. This guy is going to educate all aspiring musicians. When you have someone that is truly honest with you about how you can succeed and actually knows the ins and outs of the business, yeah, I got to big him up. Someone who brings value to your musical journey by providing a service that details the steps to reaching your goals. It's a must that you pay attention. I am honored to have this young man with such a wealth of knowledge on Live and Loud with the Lord. And now I welcome Mr. Matej Harangozo, to Live and Loud with the Lord. Yeah, let me clap him up.
Lord Nelson, I appreciate you.
Man, come on, man. Music
business. Me and the intro.
Hey, man, it's all love. So the first question, where are you from, young man?
I'm from Slovakia.
Breathe, 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 breathe. Yeah. Woo. Breathe, 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 breathe.
Lived in the U.S. obviously for many years, but I came here when I was almost 12 years old in 95. And when I'm 39 now, so yeah, I've been here for a majority of my life, 27 years.
You just a baby. He's just a baby, ladies and gentlemen. So what's the best thing about being from Slovakia?
To be honest with you, it's weird I say this, but Slovakia, when I was born, it was still communist. It was behind the Iron Curtain. You know, in '89 the wall came down, but I really have to be thankful for the education, the early public education that I received over there from 1 to 5th grade, and the fact that my mom stayed home with me every day, grinding through all the information and the wealth of knowledge I gained. Because when I came to the U.S., even though I went to Howard County School, which is in Maryland, and Howard County schools generally come up as like top 5 educational counties in the nation, I would say I didn't really learn much new until college.
Oh, okay, so, really? So where'd you go to college?
UMBC. I went to first I went to a community college for like an honors program that I got into on a scholarship, and then I went to University of Maryland, Baltimore County for mechanical engineering.
Wow. Okay.
So I would say, you know, I got my drive, my education, I guess that foreign drive, you know, when people talking about foreign stuff in here and grinding, taking jobs, things like that. But, you know, I think part of that mentality is just coming from a country that had a very interesting history. And again, you know, during communism, everybody was, I would say, very highly educated, but there was zero opportunity. And then when communism was over, there was a lot of corruption. That's when my father left. Gotcha. You know, so it could have ended up kind of like Ukraine, unfortunately. We didn't. We're in the European Union, you know, so I'm thankful for that. That's the way I look at it, at least.
No doubt, no doubt. So let's get into it. Music in the music business. It's obvious you have a love for music. At what point did your love for music turn into a passion for educating artists about the reality of the music business?
So passion for music started when I emigrated here as a young kid, right? Fell in love with hip hop. Didn't even speak English yet, but I think hip hop definitely just captured me one way or another. So then in high school, one of my side hustles, so I don't get in too much trouble, because I always had the risk of getting deported until I got my citizenship 2017 or 2018, I think.
Wow.
But, so instead of doing what my friends were doing on the side, I started selling CDs. I was the first kid in high school with the 1X burner. So if a 60-minute CD existed, it took me 60 minutes to burn that
I
thing.
got you. I know.
So that's where the passion for like the actual business started, because I started printing my own covers. I would put like, executive producer Matej. I had my own little label, like signature and all that. So the word started to spread, and I kind of did a little bit of that throughout college. But honestly, I didn't really know how to get into the music industry. I messed around with like a little bit of production software, like late high school, early college. But kind of gave that up for being an entrepreneur. Started businesses and other platforms. But when I got back into the music industry in around 2013, 2014, I was in a much better position financially. I had a business that was booming in another industry, energy efficiency, but it gave me some time and funds to invest in the artists.
Right.
Invested into artists, I got scammed for a lot of money, close to like 30, 40K. By hiring marketing agencies, PR people and all that just gave us bullshit, basically. So the reason I became passionate about educating the artists is because when we started our other companies in Maryland and other industries, we had a lot of help from the local state, like the Chamber of Commerce in our county, the SBA, department in Maryland that had incubators. The University of Maryland had incubators, right? So us as business uneducated entrepreneurs just trying to figure out how to make it in a particular industry, all we had to do was just look a little bit, and we found a lot of information in like I said, incubators or groups that cared about entrepreneurship in Maryland and helped us. Right. When I got to the music industry, I don't see nothing like that nowhere, especially in the DMV, but I don't think even now, like there's no like advocate groups for artists. I'm sure there are some, but not on the level I've experienced in the software development industry and the real estate industry. There's certainly no regulation in the music industry. So long story short, that's where that passion for educating, business owners. And I guess, again, because I came from a different country and I always a little bit kind of feel like the underdog in certain ways, especially in business. I had no connections, no money, no uncles, nobody here except my immediate family. I gained a lot from these resources in the state of Maryland. So I wanted to pass that on because, me being passionate about hip hop and knowing a lot of rappers, a lot of kids that were trying to make it, producers, they didn't have the access to knowledge that, in my opinion, would have accelerated their careers. They were very talented individuals.
Right.
And the information existed. It's just it wasn't easy to capture,
obtain.
So that's kind of where all came from.
Yeah, definitely. I really want you to be on because I know you're going to inspire some people, man. Every time I see your content, it's like I want to like everything. I don't want to be like a lunatic, but it's just like you're saying so much great stuff. And I'm older and I've been through it, and I'm still going through it with certain music stuff, and even with my son and stuff. So anyway, what you're doing is amazing, man. So I'm loving it. So with all the amazing content and knowledge you shared with artists that should truly help them, where do you think artists still fall short in their understanding of what it really takes to be successful?
I think is more so a lot of artists have to unlearn what they think they know about the music industry. And I think initiative and execution is everything. I think one of the phenomenon, or like one of the aspects of the music industry that a lot of independent artists and producers suffer from is that they think that looking at A-list artists and their stories and what they say in interviews gives the blueprint for what they need to do. But what they're forgetting, and we're in the entertainment industry, and 90% of those interviews are entertainment. It's like watching an actor in a movie playing a role of a lawyer or a doctor and say, oh, I watched 10 hours of movies about doctors. I think I could be a doctor.
Right.
Oh, he's an actor. Right. A lot of, and again, I don't want to discount, especially, recently in the last 10 years, like people like Russ or even Jay-Z or there's a lot of people that are passionate about actually giving the game in these interviews. But we got to be real, when A-list artists get on the air, whether it's Breakfast Club or whatever, or like a big interview on MTV or BET, they're not going to ask them like, oh, well, how many hours a week do you spend reading contracts? Or like, how do you manage your team? They want to know the glamorous shit, right?
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
that information never ends up in the artist's eyes in the right way. In fact, you should probably follow their managers or their labels and see what the blueprint is. So I think that's the main thing that kind of, it's like, it goes against the grain for a lot of artists and musicians. So that's problem number one. And then problem number two, I think, is just, and I feel like this is human nature. because of the pleasure, I'm saying this because I have the pleasure to travel all around the world. I have a company in India with 45 employees. And I think when they say there's like, 10% of people make it, 90% don't, I feel like that's like somehow ingrained in our biology. It's just 90% of people don't take action. They have big dreams, but they just don't take action.
Right.
I don't care who you are, where you came from, just that the ability or the willpower to say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I will take action, even if I'm going to fail a few times, which in fact you're going to, and you need to fail. That's learning. I think that's the bulk of it. Like I have at this point about 2,000 artists came through our accelerator. We got like active 300 members, and I hold 2 calls every single week on Zoom in our accelerator that artists can get on with me, ask any questions. I act like a virtual manager to many, many members. And we have anywhere from 8 to maybe 30 people show up.
Right.
10%. And this percentage like repeats over and over again when we advertise artists' music through my digital marketing agency. 10% of engagement, and that's when you have like super fans, that's expected. So there's like 10% thing is what I discovered in human beings, that is just simply taking action.
Yeah. Wow, man. Listen, she's got so much information, man. So of all the genres of music, which one do you think is the hardest to be successful in, and why?
The hardest? That's a tough question. I don't know. There's each one certainly has its own nuances, and like put it this way, rap is particularly hard, but also has its advantages. And the reason I say it's hard because so many kids want to be rappers,
right? That
I've met, in high, like it starts in early age, high school, whatever. So if I looked at it as a business, when I started my company, Energy Efficiency, we were like 1 out of 8 companies in Maryland. If I imagine that there was 1,500 energy efficiency companies, and that's just a very low estimate from Maryland,
right?
wanted to compete with me, shit, I don't know how we would have made it. That the competition was immense.
Got you.
So but rap also has the advantage now of being the new pop. It's the biggest genre on this planet, at least in the US. Is the biggest revenue generator.
It is.
So there's a lot of resources and a lot of investors willing to get into it. A lot of people that figured out how to sort of, understand the model and all that. So it's tough to say. Maybe even classical music or like musicians, instrumentalists is maybe, or maybe, maybe that's easier because I feel like a lot of people don't learn instruments. So I feel like the competition is getting less and less.
Yeah, it's changed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I think music in it, like all genres, let's just talk about the ones that are the most fun for high school kids, like pop, R&B, hip hop, and maybe EDM. Right. All those are particularly hard because of the amount of kids that are aspiring artists.
Yes.
So that creates a lot of competition. And these days, in my opinion, talent, of course, matters. So you got to be talented. But then after that, if you just figure out how to take action and learn some good information, you're going to surpass 90% of your competition, even if they may be more talented than you are.
Right. I got you.
Certain advantages, but it's, music industry is tough. It's a hard industry. There's no regulation.
Yeah.
Right. Like you think about real estate. I used to be a real estate agent. There's regulation in Maryland. There's federal regulation. You have to be licensed. You have to be under a broker. You have to pass a test before you even like talk to a potential customer that wants to buy a house. There's nothing like that in music, right? So it's the Wild Wild West. So it's easy to get scammed. It's easy to get taken advantage of, all of that. And like I haven't been in another industry, which is funny. A lot of my like peers or people that are older than me that are in business, they're like, why the fuck would you get in the music industry? It's the passion. I just love music, and I love the education piece of it.
No, I got you, man. Great answer, man. Great answer. So to me, you need, in no particular order, work ethic, consistency, dedication, and money to be successful in the music business. So could you please put them in order of importance to you in your professional opinion, and add anything I may be missing?
I would say consistency is number one for me. Right. Because even if you're not as talented, if you're consistent with learning, you can become a great producer, great artist, great singer, vocalist, whatever. That's, so actually talent is the last.
Okay. Really? Yeah.
Even though I truly believe you got to be talented to make it, because otherwise you can't create demand.
Right.
But consistency is going to be number one. You didn't mention strategy, but money is definitely important. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like you got to have money to invest in any business.
Right.
But time is money, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't have that. A lot of independent artists don't have thousands of dollars to invest in marketing in the business, but you have time. and time is a lot of it times equivalent to what do you make per hour? What's your hour worth? Right. They're like, well, how else can I market? Well, don't spam people. Don't like type shit into their comments or like DM them if they don't want your DM. But you could do stuff that's like low cost and real cash, but takes a lot of time.
Right.
So you can, find people online. You can get out there with a Bluetooth speaker on the street level and perform. So consistency first, money second, and then all those other ones afterwards. But to me, from everything that I learned, and especially working with a lot of talented artists, the talent is almost the last, because for whatever reason, in a lot of cases I've dealt with, the talent almost like is, I don't want to say detrimental to the artist, but like they shoot themselves in the foot with having talent because they feel like they don't have to work as hard.
They don't have to put the work in.
Entitlement.
Right.
Along with like really good talent.
I got you, man. Awesome. So even as much as you love what you do, have there been times where you were frustrated by an artist that had all the talent but refused to put in the work? Add on to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, like healthy frustration all the time. Yeah. A lot more before. I've managed artists, I invested into artists. I'm currently not per se doing that. I'm more so I'm investing into teams.
Right. Okay.
Put it that way. So yeah, there's like a good healthy frustration. Like even our clients wish they would be posting more content as we're marketing and they're spending thousands of dollars, so it's kind of like the frustration out of love. Like, come on, man, you could do way better than this. Like you could put out way more content. Like don't be self-conscious, like it's good to put it out there. So, there's
that's real. That's real talk. I'm sorry for jumping in. That's real talk, because even at my age now, and still loving music like I do, I had to learn that. And I try to tell my son that also, because I think he's so talented. But getting out of your way and not worrying about what all these people are going to say, because there's a whole world out there. And I'm not worried about what my friends think about me or whatever like that. I'm trying to do something bigger. I'm trying to do something global. And I know that the internet allows you to do that, but there's still certain intricacies that you have to, know to get in there. And that's why, once again, thank you for being here, because I know you're that guy. And ladies and gentlemen, he's the guy that you guys need to check out his services, because it's going to be really, really good for you, no doubt. So on the other hand, what's the feeling like when a client follows through on the game plan and achieves their goals? What's that feel like to you?
I mean, it's a great feeling, because it tells me that the model and the blueprint that we sort of try to put in place works. And I know they're happy. It's just good to see that good music gets out there. And again, like, who am I to say what good music is? Because we've had clients where you would never catch me listening to that music in my car, for example, but we're succeeding. And, I love the fact that they had a team, that they were getting to the next levels. So, it's a good feeling for both sides. I'm happy for them, and I'm happy that the blueprint that I've been kind of working on, pitching to our clients and executing on works. Because there's like a general blueprint that always works, but obviously every client, every artist is their own almost business. So it's got to be tailored. There's no like exact formula, but there's definitely a bunch of like general formulas that I think will work for any artist.
Got you. Well, like you said something. I want to piggyback off of that. You said team. I know my boy Corey Lowry, who plays guitar for Seether, used to be in Stuck Mojo, and Corey's my guy, just amazing musician. And he was talking about, you got to have a strong team, man. How important is that team to have to get to the next level?
I don't think you could get to the next level without a team. So it's everything. Like any company I've ever built, it would have been nothing without the team. Of course, in the beginning, there's a lot of grind by myself with my initial business partners and all that. But there's just that's just like putting the beginning seeds of your dream into action, and then people, the team follows. And sometimes you got to hire the team. Sometimes you and a few people that get together that are business partners grind for a long time to where revenue is coming in, so then you can hire your own employees and expand it that way. But your team is everything, especially in the music industry.
Great. Awesome. I appreciate that one. Yes, indeed. So in your professional opinion, what's the biggest misconception about the music industry?
That you can get signed just off of having hot songs.
That's it. That you can get signed off of hot songs. Okay, that's what's up.
Or that like you could just put it out and like
it'll happen.
Like people will just start understanding what you're going through. Or you just put out like there's a lot of things that gets taken out of context. Like one of the ones that I get a lot of comments or questions about, I did a video on the Russ strategy. They took it out of one of his interviews or one of his posts. Like, look at my account. All I did was put out one song per week and started 2016. And a year later, I'm like touring and filling out venues with 500 people. But there's so much more that you can find from Russ saying somehow that got missed. No artist is like, yeah, well, he did that plus 10 other things in parallel as he was doing. That all got missed. Like, oh shit, yeah, all I gotta do is just be like Russ, just put out a song per week. I'm good. I'll be looking for in a year. No.
Looking for the easy way. And it's way more work to it, man. It's so much work. Wow. So just like you saying that, so the social media model of music consumption is gigantic, of course, but radio is still relevant, in my opinion. So am I way off, or is that some truth to that?
So you're right. I mean, every marketing tool has its place. Like country music, the radio is way more relevant than hip hop, for example.
Right.
In hip hop, once you get the artist buzzing and there's a huge fan base, I think you should only. Can the radio help you? Like, okay, look, if you have a large budget, like 200K for national radio play as an independent artist, but there's a lot more money behind other things because you can't just, of course, be on radio and nothing else. Right. Then yeah, I mean that's going to accelerate the blowing up of the artist. But if in hip hop and pop, I would use radio at a level where the artist is going on tour. They already have hundreds of thousands of fans potentially, and radio acts as a reminder. Or it's taking a record that's really starting to do well. Maybe it's getting on like the position 50, 20, whatever the Billboard charts, and then you just take it to make it into a massive hit record, is to get that like national radio play. So it has its place, but yeah, real radio is expensive. I want to make sure all the artists understand you have to watch out for the digital radio stations because there's thousands of them, and 90% kind of like Spotify playlists. They don't even have real people listening to them. They're just nuts. They'll give you reports on how many streams or radio spins they're giving you per week.
Right.
I've got burned on those type of campaigns many times. So radio is important. Like Hot 97 in New York. I mean, being on that for a couple of weeks, that could break an artist.
Right.
Power 105, like Shade 45, if you get a record in consistent rotation on a radio station, like I guess that's satellite. So of course we got satellite, digital, FM, so they all have their place, and every genre benefits differently. Gospel, I think, is huge. Radio, getting your song on the radio in the gospel world, that's tremendous for a record, even in the early stages.
Right.
A lot of gospel consumers listen to FM radio.
Got you.
So it just depends on that's the tailored part I'm talking about. Depends on the client and where they're at and what stage. But real radio, FM radio, in pop and hip hop and R&B is super expensive to do it the right way.
Expensive to do it. And once again, it comes, that money is so important. I've heard you say it in certain times, but it's just like you got to really understand that money is still important, and you just can't even, you have social media out there, and I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me not even get ahead of myself because I got a definite question for that. So, in your professional opinion, are labels still important, or is the indie route the way to go?
I think both are important. Labels are important. I don't want to discount labels. I don't want to shit on labels because there's a lot of great teams out there, and people just say, well, label's just a bank. Like, I don't need a label if my record goes big. No, at that point, you probably do need a label because, okay, do you want to do national touring? Like, just think about what goes into touring, the liability, the logistics, like renting 18-wheelers to transfer your fucking equipment around. Like, so many things that these artists are not thinking about, and that's like my favorite comment I like to battle on in my comments. Like, well, what if you make it, what you need a label for? No, like if you want to go worldwide, like it's not easy to get into the Chinese market, like Chinese streaming services.
Right.
How are you going to get somebody to collect all your royalties outside of the US? Like we got ASCAP and BMI here, but let's say you're a dancehall artist and you're playing in Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa. They have different PROs over there. Western Europe, different PROs. So the label is crucial. Now, a label, you have to be very careful because it's like the double-edged sword. Like you have to understand, like a partnership with a label is a beautiful thing. In the beginning, label can be also good. Like let's say you're a 17-year-old artist with a small team, and they say, okay, we're going to lock you in for 5 years. You're not going to get a great deal. You might get a 90-10 split, like 90% owned by a label. But if they commit, let's say $2 million over 5 years to blow you up.
Right.
You're 17, 18, and that deal is over. You're 23, and still then after that, you're a free agent and you soak up all that business game. You could be independent at 23. That is like artists. That's why I want artists to understand business, because maybe that's an awesome fucking situation.
Yeah, valuable. Yeah.
Now, if you're 28 and you get that type of a deal, probably not, you may want to keep going independently. So, and I think what you want to do is you want to start independently, learn the game independently, gain a fan base independently. And that's the way to get a partnership, because to me, even the word independent gets misunderstood a lot. You can still be like Russ was independent. He still had a deal with, I think it was either Atlantic or Capital to take him worldwide, but he was the boss.
Right.
The label trusted his ability to take it even further with the label's help, because they saw how far he took it before the label got involved.
Right.
To me, he's still independent. Independent just means you're the CEO of your career.
Got you. I think a lot of people do get that twisted. Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Because like, and this is my favorite rebuttal to that. Well, like, nah, if you're not on a label, you're independent. Okay, that's not true, because if we wanted to boycott a label, then you also have to boycott Spotify, Apple Music, and
right,
all.
Right.
Then you can't put your music on these platforms or YouTube because they're a major company. What's the difference between Universal, public company as a record label, and Apple that sells computers and provides Apple Music, or Google that provides YouTube? So everybody depends on some form of a relationship or a platform to use anyhow.
Of course.
To me, independent just means you figured out the business to a point where even if you're at the label, you're still the boss. You get to control the release dates, what gets put on the album, how the budget gets spent. So that's very rare when you get a deal with a label, but it's very possible, because really that point is not even, like I said, it's a partnership more so than a deal.
Oh, man. Awesome, man. Awesome information, man. So, singles or albums right now?
Singles.
Yeah. Because even my man, we're trying to figure something out. Of course, I'm in a rap metal band called Plastic Catastrophe with Lord Nelson, and we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. We were signed with a French label, but now we're looking at trying to do more stuff, by ourselves. But still, once again, just looking at things, looking at money. And while we were talking, my man texted me, he's like, hey, I just did this or whatever like that. But and I'm going to use the stuff that you said, man, most definitely, man, to probably talk to you offline about some things that we can do also, man, because I'm into what you're doing and what you're talking about. I think it's so valuable for the watchers and listeners, man. And I'm really going to, put it out there to them like, yo, you guys got to really pay attention, man. This is really, really important to you. So,
but look, let me answer that. So here's the nuance. You say in the rap metal band. So still singles, but then you can repackage a bunch of singles that you put out over the last year and a half into an album, right? Because I do know for a fact that in genres like rap metal, rock, heavy metal, even a lot of acoustic artists like Lana Del Rey, things like that, they appreciate like a vinyl. Vinyls are actually on the uptick.
Vinyl's back. That's right.
If you have a fan base, that's when the album can be appreciated. And I don't want to discount the artistry, or like, I'm a fan of a lot of artists, and having a full body of work, especially if it's kind of like congruent, like it makes sense as like a storyline, like back in the day, where they made the albums that way. I appreciate that, but it can still be done by putting out a bunch of singles, maybe not all the tracks in that album, but let's say the album is 12 songs, you put out 7 as singles over a period of half a year, a year. And then you put out like a repackaged thing on, this, here's your Christmas present, December 25th, and here's extra 5 tracks that you never heard, and now this is an album, but you better have a fan base, so.
Right. Yeah, I know when you talk about vinyl, I know when we toured, when I was with Stuck Mojo and we toured with Volbeat, you talked about Volbeat had the bus for the artists, Michael and those guys were on one bus, and then they had all the merch on another bus, and then, just seeing that machine work. It was a machine. When you talk about the label and how they had it was just beautiful. And I was just like, man, even though I was with Stuck Mojo at the time and we were doing our thing, but that Volbeat thing was on another level. And I just looked at them like, they got their shit together. They really got their shit together, man. So when you speaking of those kind of things like that, and then I have a vinyl back there that I ordered from this young lady named Stony Sugar Skull. And she's out there doing her thing, and she's just different. And when I heard her, I was just like, I had her on my show, and I was just like, listen, I got to buy your product. because it was just different. And every time she sings, it's just different, and she just makes me smile. So I was like, you got vinyl? I want to buy that vinyl. You know, I'm old school, and I remember those days, you know, of going, you know, digging into crates with my brother. He's a DJ and actually has a internet radio station. But amazing, man. No, once again, great information. I got off on a tangent, man. I'm excited about this. That's all it is. So how important is promotion, buying ads, boosting posts? Because I've heard you talk about it.
I mean, promotion is everything, especially in the early stages. So the reason I talk about the digital marketing a lot, because to me, the way our team does it is the cheapest way, dollar for dollar, to get your early music in front of the right target audience and get feedback from them to see what they think about the music, whether they like it or not, how much they like it, and literally identify your best product. So you can then focus on that for a while and milk it for everything it's worth. Because if you identify the best song through digital marketing, that means you're going to be able to reach and engage the most amount of targeted users, future fans, for the least amount of money. Right. And that's super important for independent artists. Boosting posts, not so much, just, you know, the actual technical term, like when you see that boost post now and all that, it doesn't give you as many options to be very granular for how you can target people. Right. It's, you know, it has its certain uses, but digital marketing, in my opinion, is the most powerful dollar for dollar if you know what you're doing. It's important to understand that, you know, if my team spends $10,000 and somebody that doesn't know how to do digital marketing spends $10,000, you're going to get a completely different result. Like I've had the pleasure to learn about digital marketing through my older company, Renew It, because I was able to spend, I forgot how many we spent, close to $10,000 on learning how to launch ads with my own money. Right. So artists are like, well, you know, we could do that same thing. I'm like, okay, fine. But the money, the result is not going to be the same. There's some science to it. Or because the only other way to do it is then you go out in the physical form and you get feedback from, you know, from fans. Right. And that's not easy to do. You know, people think, well, I'll just open up, you know, I'll go to a showcase. Well, you don't have fans in the crowd. You have a bunch of other artists, producers, managers. Right. If you open up for somebody, maybe that's not an effective way because it's too expensive, and generally people only show up for the main artist. So you're performing for like 10% of a distracted audience. Right. Care about you. They don't know you were going to be there, you know. So you have to really understand how psychology really works. Psychology is the part that a lot of marketers don't talk about. It's not just setting up ads and like getting in front of the right people. How do those people think? How did you deliver your ad? Like, what was in the video? What did you say or what did you not say? How was it presented? So you can then convert to psychology, because a lot of people talk about, well, that's the paid way of getting fans. I want to do everything organic, but that's another misconception. I can run an ad all day. The ad, when it shows up on your feed, that is a paid form of getting something in front of people. But then everything after that is organic. Then that consumer decides, what am I going to do with this? Right. Am I going to follow the call to action because the artist asked me to check out their new song on Spotify? Am I going to go to Spotify? Am I going to listen to the whole thing? Am I going to add it to my playlist? Am I going to follow that person? That's all organic afterwards. So again, artists will shoot themselves in the foot. They're like, nah, I don't want to advertise because I want to do everything organic. You have to understand what organic truly means. And organic can happen after delivering something through a paid action. So, you know, advertising is everything. Like, I don't know. Look, this is the basic question. How do I get my product, I don't care what I'm doing, but in this case, the song, in front of real human beings that will probably like that product? Right. And how do I do it in the thousands and 10,000, 100,000s at a time? So, you know, doesn't always have to be digital marketing, but if you can figure that out, you have to figure it out, and that's marketing.
And you do provide this service for people, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. This young man does provide this service. Indeed. It's great, man. So what brings you the most joy about what you do?
I think it's just educating the artists and their teams to succeed, and just, you know, especially when I get comments out of the accelerator, we're like, man, like, you've changed my life with how I understand business, and not just the music business, but everything I'm teaching is just business 101. Yeah, I've had an example in our accelerator where the artist, I think they're still going to try to focus on their music, but through learning everything in my accelerator, they applied those strategies and how to run ads to his wife's audiobook. And she's like a big blogger online about, I think it was cooking or something like that. And they transformed her career. Right. over like a period of a couple months. I mean, like quintupled 5 times X her audience and the revenue she was bringing and all of that.
That's awesome.
So it's just that feedback that that what we are preaching, me and my team, is real. It really works. There's no bullshit, and it really helps, and it's good for long term.
Awesome, man. Great. So, woo. Listen, my mind is just running, man. I'm telling you, my mind is just running about all the things that you're saying, man. Just great information. So, in the music business, to truly make it, should it be a go all in mentality? Because a lot of people have jobs, a lot of people have other things going on, but to really get there, do you have to, so many people have said, like, you just throw caution to the wind, you just got to do it.
That's an interesting question. And the way I would answer it and how I approach things in life myself is that if you heard of the term or the practice of chunking is like really mastering your time and schedule. And let's say you put something in for 3 hours of your time, you go all in that 3-hour slot.
Okay.
No distractions, no social media, put your phone away, depending on what it is. That's how I'm able to run multiple businesses. Is I chunk my time throughout the week. So realistically, you're right. A lot of artists that are independent in the beginning, especially that need to have a 9-to-5 or another job to fund their career, they can go all in from a standpoint like you can't spend 12 hours a day just on that because you got to make money elsewhere. But that evening hour that you get, or those 2 hours you can allocate every single day, or that 10 hours during the weekend, you go all in on that time slot. And you have to look at your life and you have to compartmentalize and organize what you're doing. Like the funny thing is when artists access my accelerator, they ask me all these questions and they present all these challenges to me. Like, I can't do this. I don't have time for that. First thing I ask, do you have Netflix? Like, yeah. I'm like, get fucking rid of it. And when I dig deeper, I'm like, be honest, how much do you spend on Netflix just watching shit? And it turns out 5, 6, 7 hours a week. That's crazy. You have 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
Multiply 7 times 50. You know what I'm saying? That's 350 hours. That's a lot of shit you could do. So it's just being realistic with yourself. So to answer it again is like, you go all in when you allocate the time of the day or whatever for your music dream to happen, And look, with creativity, sometimes you can't necessarily schedule creativity. Like you can't say, okay, at 8 p.m. tonight, I'm going to create some hits in the studio.
Right.
So, you have to account for that. But if you say every Wednesday I get to go to the studio and you make it consistent, maybe the third week on that Wednesday, you create some hits because those 2 Wednesdays prior at 8 to 10 in the studio, you were able to jot down some ideas, vibe with something, prepare some seeds, plant some seeds for future songs. Right. So again, it's just, you have to master your time. And when you allocate the time for your dream, you go all in at that time.
And what was the term you said it was again?
It's called chunking, like chunk.
Chunking. I got you. Chunking. Yeah, I got you.
I learned that recently, like 3 years ago. Like, people like Elon Musk and like these billionaires that run 10 companies and they don't do it for money because you see Elon Musk works like 16 hours a day. He's a maniac. I'm not recommending that you do that.
Right.
When they ask him, like, how do you actually pull that off? It's kind of, I think that there's one of the terms used in the interview is called chunking. So I read a book on project management. And that was in there. So it makes sense to me. And I've kind of been doing it subconsciously myself.
Right.
I'm not the best at it. Trust me, I get distracted all the time, but I do try to allocate those blocks in my calendar for certain things and hopefully do a decent job of committing to when I'm, focusing on X, Y, and Z in my calendar.
Got you. That focus, man. Indeed. So in your words, how can you help an artist achieve their goals in music?
We can, if they use our services, we can help the artist put their music in front of the right people. We can help them understand who the right people are if they have no idea or if they literally start from scratch. And we can identify their best song for the time being out of, let's say, if they come in with 4 songs, I'll tell them what the consumer says is the best song out of those 4.
Right. And
if that does really well, then that is the most strategic song to focus on for the next year to actually gain a fan base. So we can do that. That's in detail. But what I guess this will resonate with a lot of artists. I will make sure you don't get scammed for $40,000 your first 3 years of your career.
Right.
Actually use that money to build a true fan base. Because I swear, it's unfortunate. Like I said, it happened to me. 99% of the clients we take on, whether they just join the accelerator or become a full-blown client, everybody's got scammed, and it's almost like you need to get scammed in this industry, and that pisses me off. That's my 20-year goal, is to continue to educate the industry, so hopefully the ecosystem one day becomes better.
Oh,
So
man.
artists are educated enough that they can't get gotten. Like they're educated enough to say, I'm not falling for this bullshit, because
Right.
if you do things this way, I'm not paying for your services, so but that's what we do. So we educate the artists, help them build the businesses, and then identify their best product and hopefully promote their best product to grow a real sustainable fan base.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So now, are there certain tiers to it, or they can just come to you guys, hit your site, hit your website, and just, see what there is? You got a menu for them?
Yep. Yeah, we got a menu on the website, which goes into detail of how the services work. But,
right.
If a client is willing to come on, a full-blown client, I'm always willing to have a quick call with them, showing how we do stuff. And the steps of how we do it for any type of client, I have to learn about the client.
Okay.
The client's coming to me that already has a fan base. They're able to do shows of 100, 200 people, things like that. It's a different stage. At that point, we're still doing marketing for a client, but we're also doing what I call digital infrastructure. We are retargeting their fans and extracting the email addresses and phone numbers so they have it in their own database, and helping them get on different revenue streams and all of that. But when it's a client or a team that's sort of starting from scratch, then we first have to build the initial buzz and fan base, identify the song. So every client will be different from what steps we take.
Right.
But we have to have a call, and we always do that before. When the client comes on board and they pay our fee to start, we always have a strategy call after my team does what I call a data scrub, looking at everything they've done, what's available, what tools they got, do they have a website, what resources their team has available to them, and then we strategize what's the most effective thing to do for the next couple of months.
Got you. Great time. So I know, I'm not trying to rush, but I know you got to get out of here. But I want to, last question I'll ask, what was the last song you listened to?
Last song I listened to was actually Haley Knox.
This is the part we're both avoiding. I thought we had it all until the morning. You lead me on and I'm left disappointed. I'm waiting on you, you're waiting on me. I've been so cold, spaced out, think of you more than you know. Probably think of me in your backseat, still missing me. So don't act like you don't care. Feelings are still there. I can't keep waiting on you, waiting on you, waiting on you.
Artists I found on TikTok, independent artists. I'm trying to have my team reach out to her, but it's called hold on, Prada. Yeah, young lady named Haley Knox. That was like in the car, I think last night we were listening.
Right. And I just like to ask that question of artists and the people, because there's no telling what people are listening to. You know what I'm saying? Just like you said, there was somebody off of TikTok that you saw. It's just like, but it might bring her to other people to go check her out or whatever. Like,
well, actually, you know what? And that's a lot, because this morning one of our clients, Royals Ent, she's got a song called "No Bum Bum."
I just can't understand why you feel up on me. Rubbing up my hands up in my pants and trying to tell me looks and me no want no broke.
No bum bum.
Yeah, dope song. Go check it out. Riel Love, No Bum Bums. As soon as you hear it, like they use the sample, that's immediately recognizable, but it's a dope ass song. And I listened to the whole thing because I had to review the edits we made on her video to make it into a clean enough version so we can actually launch it as ads inside of YouTube. So that's technically the last thing I listened to this morning.
I got you. Well, I'm going to say there's so much more that we can sit down here and have conversation about, and I really appreciate it. So if you wouldn't mind, give my watchers and listeners all your social media information and all your contact information, if you wouldn't mind, sir.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram and TikTok and even on YouTube, which is Matej_H_Entreprenuer. Or if you just type in my full name, which is a hard name to type, Matej Harangozo, but this is finally starting to become advantageous to have a hard name. Because there's nobody else with that name. So if you type in Matej, even though it's a very common name, Matthew in English, I still, come up. But anyways, it's Matej_H_Entrepreneur. And if you get at me on Instagram, I have a phone number that you can text, which is, my texting phone number.
Right.
And me or my team are always looking at that. So if you need to reach us or me, there's a guarantee you will get a response from that.
Indeed. Awesome, man. Listen, once again, I appreciate you. Thank you very, very, very much. This has been very informative. And just like I say, I like to entertain, but I also like to educate too. And I'm just honored to have you, man. I want you to know that, man. I really, really do appreciate you taking the time. So, ladies and gentlemen,
come back when I get some time. I'm happy to come back.
Yeah, indeed, man, because we got so much more to say, man. We can sit here and talk for a long, long time, especially because I'm a music lover. I love music, and I'm still learning, and I appreciate you, man, most definitely. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you know who it is. It's yours truly, the Lord, the big guy with the big show on Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS Network with 5 Royals Entertainment with the great music guru, entrepreneur, Matej Harangozo. Yes, indeed. Clap him up, man. Yes, indeed.
Man.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, my brother.
With the Lord, free of charge, can't afford to miss it. We won't be ignored. No need for knocking. Come on in. Bring your family and your friends. Got you geeked and tuning in. YouTube watching or listening. Music is the major topic. Enjoy audio erotic. When the merch arrives, no copy. Help me monetize and profit. Mix the genres up like salads. Rock to reggae, break the balance.
Turn it up. You're listening to Live and Loud with the Lord, Nelson, that is.